All right, today we are diving into something really different. It's a security philosophy, a pretty radical one actually, built for the internet as it is today. It's called the Delta Force Doctrine, and it's all about how you can carve out your own little piece of digital sovereignty in what is, let's face it, a pretty hostile online world. So, this whole complex idea, it really boils down to answering just one single question. How can you or your system reach out and touch the wild, messy, and sometimes dangerous internet without getting dragged into the mud yourself, without being corrupted by it? That's the core dilemma, right?
And you have to admire the focus here. The people who came up with this weren't trying to solve a dozen little security problems. Nope, they designed this entire system to solve one and only one critical issue, an issue they defined with incredible clarity.
And there it is. That's the mission statement. The whole goal is to let a clean, trusted core system, they call it NKAI, do things out on the internet. But, and this is the whole game, to build a wall so perfect that none of the internet's chaos, its trackers, its malware, none of that junk can ever find its way back home.
So, how in the world do you solve a problem that big? Well, the doctrine's answer is pretty wild. You don't just build a taller fence. You create a specialized, and here's the key word, disposable asset that's designed to live on the front lines. And they call this asset Delta Force.
Now, what I find fascinating is that they start by telling you everything it isn't. Get this, it is not your friendly AI assistant. It has no brain, no core intelligence of its own. And maybe most important of all, the home system that sends it out, it does not trust it, not one bit.
So here's the official definition. Let's just break that down real quick. Expeditionary means it's sent out on missions, right? Armored means it's tough, built for a hostile place. But sacrificial? That changes everything. It is built with the expectation that it's going to get hit, compromised, and ultimately destroyed. And that's okay. That's the plan. And this is what that architecture actually looks like. You've got this hard, clear line in the sand. Inside, you have the good stuff, the core system, the memory, the authority, the trusted zone. And then completely outside the wire, way out in the red zone, you have Delta Force. There is zero bidirectional trust. Information flows out, but almost nothing trusted flows back in.
Okay, so if you're going to operate a system this risky, you need some serious rules. And that's what we have here. The entire doctrine is built on 5 absolute, totally non-negotiable laws. These aren't guidelines, they're the bedrock that makes the whole thing safe.
Law number 1, Delta Force has a zero authority. Think of it like a remote-controlled bulldozer. It can do powerful work, but it can't decide what to knock down or why. It can't remember, it can't judge, it can't prioritize. It just follows orders. It's a powerful arm with no mind of its own.
Second, there's no continuity. Every single time Delta Force is deployed, it's like it's born for the very first time. A completely clean slate. And this is huge because it means it can't build up a history or a reputation or a digital fingerprint that could be tracked or exploited over time.
Law number 3, and this is a really big one. Nothing that can do anything is allowed back inside. No scripts, no programs, no active code of any kind. The only things that can cross back over the perimeter are inert, harmless artifacts. We're talking plain text, screenshots, basically just dead data.
Fourth, the whole relationship is a one-way street. The core system, NKAI, is totally fine on its own. It doesn't need Delta Force to survive. But Delta Force, it can't even exist without NKAI to create it. This just reinforces its role as an expendable tool, not a vital organ.
And the 5th and final law is more of a mindset. You must always assume compromise. Every single signal you get back from Delta Force, every piece of data has to be treated as if it's already been manipulated by an enemy. The doctrine is very clear on this. This isn't paranoia. This is just correct, resilient engineering. So we've got these 5 absolute laws. What does that mean in the real world? What can this thing actually do? And what is it strictly forbidden from doing? Let's look at the operational boundaries.
The contrast here is just wild. Out there, in the external world, Delta Force has incredible freedom. It can browse websites, scrape tons of data, post content, even operate under fake identities. But internally, it's completely neutered. It's absolutely forbidden from touching the core memory, changing the rules, or executing a single command inside that safe zone, what they call base camp.
The doctrine uses this perfect military metaphor. A Sherman tank wasn't about stealth, right?
It was a big, loud, armored brawler. It was designed to roll onto the battlefield, draw fire, and take a beating. That's Delta Force. Its job is to be the target, to soak up all the attacks, so the really valuable stuff stays hidden and safe.
Okay, so this brings up a really important question. If you're always assuming Delta Force is compromised and hostile, how do you get any useful information back to base safely? Well, the answer is something called the Artifact-Only Return Protocol.
And the process is incredibly strict, as it should be. Delta Force does its job, packages the results into those inert artifacts we talked about, just raw, dead data. It sends them to a secure checkpoint, the translation barrier. And here's the kicker. At this point, a human being has to look at that data, interpret what it means, and decide if it's safe and useful enough to be allowed into the core. No automation allowed. Now we get to the final piece of the puzzle. And honestly, this is the part that just completely flips the script on traditional security. It's the endgame philosophy. And it's pretty brilliant. Just let that sink in for a second. The doctrine flat out says it. Yes, Delta Force is going to be contaminated. That isn't a failure. That is literally the entire point of its existence. It's designed to be a contamination sponge, to soak up all the garbage from the internet so the core system never has to.
So the end goal looks something like this. You let Delta Force take all the hits. It absorbs the tracking cookies, the behavioral profiling, the surveillance. It becomes the target for all that digital contamination. And the result? Your core identity, your true sovereign system, stays almost perfectly clean.
And this is the beautiful part. What happens when Delta Force gets compromised? And notice I said when, not if. It's not a 4-alarm fire. It's not a catastrophe. You just throw it away, you hit a button, a fresh, clean one is rebuilt from a template, and you send it back out. The infection is contained, and the system as a whole never gets sick. And if you remember one thing, it might be this final quote from the doctrine. Delta Force isn't a mistake. It's not a security hole. It's an intentionally engineered pressure valve. It's a safe way to let a system interact with a dangerous, high-pressure world without blowing itself up. Which really leaves us with one last question to think about. This doctrine, it's an extreme, disciplined, and kind of brilliant way to achieve security. It makes you wonder, in our hyper-connected world that's all about convenience, what's the real price of true digital sovereignty? What are we willing to build or maybe give up to actually have it?